Hello, everyone. My name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. I'm so excited to finally revisit my tier ranking, my tier list of all the Malazan books. Because if you haven't realized or seen on my channel, I have finished the novels of the Malazan Empire, which is the 6 books by Ian Esselmont that take place kind of basically concurrently with Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. This is going to be no spoilers. I may mention some character names, but that's about it. I'll mostly just be going off of vibes. I haven't read at least book 3 to 10 of Malazan for at least a year, but all of the Elsamont books I will remember very clearly, and I did reread books 1 and 2 of Malazan Book of the Fallen pretty recently and did reviews and discussions on them, so I remember them very clearly, but this is basically just me redoing my tier list because I did not include any of the Ian Esselmont books. I think I had gone up to Crippled God at that point, but that was it. So, starting with Gardens of the Moon, I will not be doing these books basically starting from Forge of Darkness. I hope it's showing my mouse. It's not. But Forge of Darkness, I feel like, is oh, this is my mouse. That's the first one I haven't read. I haven't read any of these on the bottom. I own basically all of them except for The God Is Not Willing and No Life Forsaken, which just came out, so I haven't had much time to catch up. I've been reading a lot. So Gardens of the Moon, I feel like while reading it, it's an S tier book, but I think it is A tier. I do not think that it is an S tier book because it is very confusing and it drops you right in the middle of everything, and you either sink or swim, because this was a book that I tried to read when I was 16. I vividly remember, because I still have the copy, but I remember I read the first half of it. I loved it while I read it, and then I realized I had zero clue what was going on. I couldn't remember anything. I remembered images, but, like, that was it. So, that's where I'm putting that. Deadhouse Gates, this was the book that I really felt like Malazan really sunk its teeth into me. And this was after finishing book 2, maybe even daring reading book 2 for the first time. I really felt like I wanted to read the rest of the series. It really made me commit. I definitely think it's higher than Gardens of the Moon. I don't know if I would put it in S tier, because after I reread it, there were a lot of things that I did not like as much, and the rating kind of tanked for me. I think it went from like a 9, 9.5 to like an 8, which is not good, but I think that's okay. So I will say that I really, really love sort of the ever-expanding scope of this series, and that's something that just reverberates through the rest of the series, including the Ian Esselmont books that I've read. Memories of Ice. I fucking love this book. It's easily one of my favorite books of the first half of the Malazan series, up through book 5. I love it. I could not get enough of it, and I cannot wait to reread it and hopefully have a discussion with Philip on it, because I love, 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 and also Kathy, because I'm a big fan of talking with them both. That Deadhouse Gates discussion we had was just so awesome, and I want to keep doing that, obviously. But Memories of Ice, I think, has to be an S tier book. It is, a lot of people say it's the favorite book, and I completely understand why they say that. I have other books in the series that I think are a little bit better, more to my taste, more exciting, more emotionally affecting, although this is a very emotional book, in my opinion. But this was just the action, all the arcs, by the way that Malazan is that book 1 and book 3 are basically the same arc. Book 2 and 4 are the same arc. Book 5 introduces a whole new arc on a whole new continent. And then I will go further with that sort of explanation as I get closer. But book 3 closes off a lot of stuff from book 1. And so it just kind of feels like just an entire book of climaxes, which I love. I just love, love, love Memories of Ice. I love the character work. I love the discovery aspect of it, discovering the villain, the Panian Doman, the Panian Seer. I love reading about the really, really twisted and grotesque antagonists. That's really as much detail as I want to give because I want people to go in completely blind to this book because my god, is it so fucking just awesome. Like it's really disgusting and bloody, but like that's how I'm a big metal listener. I love Cannibal Corpse. And like this book is basically like a Cannibal Corpse album in novel format, which I love. So, House of Chains, though, I really, really love the first half of it with Casa Orlong, but the second half of the book, mostly because of the character of Bitterthal, I just really disliked the second half of this book, although I do kind of love how everything ends. I do love the ending. That was one aspect in the full spoilers section that we talked about during Deadhouse Gates, because book 4 finishes off the book 2 arcs. But man, that ending, it's very divisive for a reason, and I lean both ways, depending on the mood. But I'm gonna have to give it a B book because the first half is just awesome. Casa Orlong, one of the best characters of the entire series, and there's hundreds upon hundreds of POVs throughout the series, and him being top 5 is very easy for me to rank him as. Now, book 5. Again, this is the book that really starts to go into a whole nother continent. We have totally new characters. We have like 1 or 2 from book 4 that we met that we find out book 5 is more of a prequel to the entire series and kind of sets off a lot of the sort of geopolitical aspects of Malazan, and I love it. I love this book. I think I rate this higher than Memories of Ice, and that is because of the character work. The character work of the Sengar brothers is fucking fantastic. I love it. I love Rulad. I love Troll. And I love that third brother, who I always forget the name of. I just really, really love this book. I think it's really just iconic. It really makes you just wince and feel just so much emotion. Like, book 3 makes me feel a lot, but book 5, I think, is just so much more personal, I feel like. And it's just fantastic. I just love, love, love book 5. I love the new continent. I love all the new characters. I love all the new gods that we meet. It's just so fun. I love, even talking about it now, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to prioritize my reread. Because I really want to get to Midnight Tides again. That is just, book 5 is just awesome. I loved it. For the longest time, I felt guilty that I wanted book 5 to be my number 1. But as I read the series and I've talked with various people, I've really felt like it really makes sense for me that it is in the number 1 spot so far. There are books that I think are even better than book 5, which is, it's a high, high bar. But book 6, The Bonehunters, is not one of them. This is actually my least favorite book, I believe, within the series. I would not say it's a D rating because there are a lot of really great sections in The Bonehunters. I think this is the longest book. At least to me, it felt like the longest book when I was reading it at the time. I really loved the first quarter of it or so when we have this really kind of horror kind of section going on where our characters are going through a very scary situation, and it's just this really long chapter. That's all the detail I can give, but I love that section. The rest of the book, I could not care for at all. That is not to say that my reread of it will not make me appreciate it more, because a lot of people love book 6, and I see why. I just did not at all agree with them on my first read. I love the characters. I love the, what's going on. I love that book 6 is basically continuing the next phase of the Malazan series, whereas sort of it's introducing new aspects that will lead us to the end game, but it's still exploring a lot of stuff from the early series, and I love it. Even though I rank it at C, I still love the book because I think Steven Erikson just has such a amazing gift in being able to just really, I don't know. It's like it really lets you live in another world, and that's why I read these books. I love them. I love Malazan. I will just keep saying that for the rest of my days. But book 7, Reaper's Gale. I will say this is going to be higher than House of Chains. I think it's still a B. I love book 7. It was a very fast read for me. It's probably the fastest book I read in Malazan, but I think the first half of it is just really disappointing because it finishes off a lot of plot lines from book 5, and they did not end. Well, they ended really well, but I think the first half just felt like a really big slog. Maybe because I was wanting to go to the fireworks, warehouse, the little Simpsons joke there. Because I was very, very impatient when I started this book because you have one of the main characters on the cover here, and you know that there's going to be a big, big showdown between this character and other characters. And I don't know, it just takes a little too long to get there. And I had a really tough time reading the first half of it. But the second half of it was as good as some of the stuff in Midnight Tides. So it's kind of in this kind of middle ground. I mean, B is a really good rating, I feel like. That's kind of like... It's like the 8.5s to 9 out of 10s for me. And A is like 9 out of 10s to like 9.5. And then S tier is like 9.5 to 10 out of 10. Sort of like what I'm thinking. Maybe I should write that down. I don't know. But the Reaper's Gale, I was just kind of disappointed by. I think on reread, it'll be even better, which is a good thing. I want that to happen. But yeah, Toll the Hounds, book 8. This is a very divisive book. People either love it or they hate it. People either rate it as their favorite book at the time of them finishing book 8, or they rate it as the least favorite. This is the book that made me delay doing this ranking the most, this tier list, because some days I think it's the best book up through in the first 8 books. But some days I feel like it's not as good as Memories of Ice, because Memories of Ice just has a lot more going on, because Toll the Hounds basically takes place in a singular city. Meanwhile, these other books are continent spanning. And I love that aspect of Malazan a lot more than I do some of the character work. And the character work in this is just awesome. And I think I will keep it below Memories of Ice. But I do not think that it is a bad book whatsoever. I loved it from beginning to end. You can watch my review. I'll have the whole channel or that playlist, I guess, linked below. But I loved Toll the Hounds. The ending is without a doubt the best ending in terms of all the books up to this point. But I loved book 8. I just loved all the plot lines. I loved all the new characters. I loved all the continuations of different characters from earlier books that we got. It was just so good. I love Toll the Hounds, and I'm unashamed. a lot of people were saying I should feel ashamed that I even have Toll the Hounds this high, but I think it's okay. I think I feel more shame having Midnight Tides higher, but that's like zero shame is my point. So, Dust of Dreams. I do not think... This book is hard to rank because it is basically one half of a book, even though it's as long as like the entirety of Lord of the Rings, feels like. Dust of Dreams is basically part 1 of a massive book that Steven Erikson was writing, where books 9 and 10 was supposed to be one volume, but because Steven Erikson writes these mega chonka books, he is unable to print them that way, or publishing houses are not able to do that. So he was basically like, at the beginning of book 9, he had a little note being like, hey, reader, like, this is the first part of the end. Like, please be patient. I will land the ending. I promise you. And he does. I love the ending to the series, but book 9 is a whole lot of setup. A whole lot of sitting around in meetings and getting ready for the final book. Some people love it. Everyone I know has it pretty low. I'm going to give it a C. I do think the Bonehunters is better than Dust of Dreams. I do not like Dust of Dreams really all that much. I thought it was good. I enjoyed what I read. I was happy it was there. I understood why Steven Erikson put it in there. I just did not care. This was a really, really hard read. I think this was the hardest read that I had out of all of the 10 books, but maybe on reread I'll like it more. Who knows? Book 10, The Crippled God. One of my favorite books of all time. I'm just going to put it number one. I love it. I think Crippled God is probably the best book in fantasy outside of like Lord of the Rings and Book the New Sun and books like that. I think The Crippled God is without a doubt the best ending book to any series of all time. I love it. From beginning to end, I shed many tears. I was feeling triumphant when I finished it. I felt like I'd gone through a million lifetimes of experiences, and it was just awesome. I love, 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 love The Crippled God. I remember talking to Philip after I finished the book. We did a review on book 10. I was like, let me just unload all my feelings about this book. It's so awesome. And it was just such a joy to celebrate easily one of the best books in fantasy. And it is just such a joy that I'm doing a reread of the series because I know at the end of it, I have one of the best books ever to read. And that's such an exciting prospect for me. But Knight of Knives. Let's go into novels of the Malazan Empire. I have a very complicated relationship with this series. I only read it because of how deep my love is for Malazan Book of the Fallen. And it was a series that I was like, I love the world building. I love what both of the authors are making in terms of a fantasy world with many, many living and breathing cultures and different magics and different sort of like war battles and stuff like that. Knight of Knives, though, I mean, it's a very early book by Ian Esselmont, maybe the first one he wrote in Malazan. And Knight of Knives specifically, I don't think it's anywhere near Malazan Book of the Fallen. This was just a really boring read for me, although I did love the atmosphere. I thought the descriptions and the atmosphere that Ian Esselmont built in this book was fantastic. I loved some of the characters, Kyle, Kiska. I thought those two were awesome. And those two characters are major characters through the rest of these 6 books. But man, this book was just such a slog. I remember nothing from this. I don't remember really anything from Knight of Knives. I just remember that 2 fun characters I love in the main series appeared, and then they disappeared. That's all I remember. Maybe I should reread it. It's like 200 pages, 300 maybe at most. Very short. Crimson Guard, Return of the Crimson Guard. I love this book. I think it's as good as some of the books in the A tier. I love this book. A lot of people disagree with me. Some people say this is the worst book that Ian has ever wrote. And I disagree. I kind of love this book. I love the plot lines. I love the characters. I love the world building. I love the ending of it. The ending ties off a lot of loose ends from Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is why I tell people at least read this book if you're reading Malazan Book of the Fallen, because it does end off major, major storylines that kind of just fizzle out in Malazan because I guess Steven and Ian had talked about and were like, okay, you know, you can handle this part because Malazan is going a different direction. So yeah, I love it. I don't really have anything else to say. Stone Wielder. This book was such a slog. I did not like this. I think this will be the first D tier book. This was just a whole lot of sitting around and getting very repetitive scenes of the Storm Riders. And the Storm Riders are such a cool civilization, but we get no exploration on them. We just get a whole lot of myths and tales and all that. And our characters just sitting around just talking about them. And I did not care for it. I thought the ending was somewhat good. It was fun, whatever. But it was not worth it, reading the entire book. Because this is a chonker book. About as long as Return of the Crimson God, which was like 1,000 pages, I think. Stonewielder also was 1,000 pages, and every page felt like it was double. So it felt like reading a 2,000-page book where I was just slogging. So the ending was good. I thought it was fun, but aside from that, there was nothing in this book worth reading, in my opinion. That is not to say that Ian Alsamont's writing is bad. I think his prose is good, at least at this stage, because it is readable. I've read worse books in my life, and at least Ian Alsamont has a really good handle about how people talk and interact with one another, and he's really great at world building. Like, he has all these strengths, but I think how he writes story is one of the big weaknesses he has. And it really drops down the rating for his books, because as much as I love Return of the Crimson God, 2 out of the 3 books so far in his series I've talked about are C tier at best. So take from that what you will. Orb Scepter Throne, I loved it. I'm going to put it right here for now, at the bottom of B. But I think that's because there was just a lot of disappointment about the ending, because I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of the storylines that end here are not continued throughout the rest of the series, and I really hope that they are continued at some point in my life, because there's a lot of questions I have about where these characters are going, and that alone made the rating drop for me. It was in the A tier for me, but because of the fact that all the characters are sort of abandoned after this book, and this is only book 4 out of 6, I was really, really disappointed by that. I was really angry about it, actually, because I was like, what the hell? I really like these characters. Where are they going? Like, I want to know more. And they were in such a really cool environment through all of this book. Like, the whirlwind system, the magic system is just awesome. The way that you can travel to different lands through these basically tunnels within the fabric of reality is sort of how I imagine it. It's kind of like the Mario pipes that you have. You know, you jump in the pipe and you go to a whole nother world of a whole nother environment. Or something very similar, but just different enough that you're like, okay, there's something weird going on. But yeah, Blood and Bone, book 5. Boy, this is the book that I love the writing the most of. I thought, prose-wise, this was his best. I loved it. Story-wise, I hated it. I really did not like book 5. Book 5 was just such a slog for me as well. The title of my video for this review was like Malazan meets Apocalypse Now and like Platoon, or yeah, Platoon, not Platoon, sorry, Platoon. And it's absolutely that, but you get a whole lot of repetitive stuff about how dangerous the continent is that they're going to, and at a certain point, you get it. You get the message, and you don't really want to hear about it again. Because every single chapter, every single POV runs into some new dangerous animal, some new dangerous environmental feature, whether it's a mountain or some special cursed river or something like that, ruins, ghosts, all these different dangers. It starts to dull the edge a little bit, I feel like, of the continent, where you're like, okay, we get it. Like, it's really fucking dangerous. And yeah, it was a hassle. It was a slog to get through this book. Although I think writing-wise is the best he's ever done. So I'm going to put it above Dust of Dreams, because at least there was some fun stuff happening in Blood and Bone. The ending's fun. I thought it was great. And finally, we're going to talk about Assail, which is book 6 of Novels of the Malazan Empire. And this was the last one I read. I was very disappointed where the story went. Again, story is just something that I think is a major weakness for Ian Alsamont, but I love the character writing, I love the dialogue, I love the world building, I love all this different stuff, so it kind of balances out for me. But this is another book that I think just kind of dropped the ball. I was really disappointed when I finished it. I just felt more like I had wasted a lot of time reading the series after I finished this book. So I was like, man, like all the stuff I liked, like he barely explored. And the stuff that I didn't really care for, he really explored. And this book in particular, he didn't explore anything with kind of the terrifying entities that we get to know from this continent of Acel, the Forkul Acel, and he didn't do anything with them. I felt like maybe I'm wrong, maybe I am, but like I just did not care. I just did not care at all what was going on. Although I enjoyed the POVs, they were fun, but story-wise, again, it's just such a thing. I'm gonna go ahead and put Knight of Knives back down here. It's not as well, yeah. I'm gonna put Knight of Knives. That's my least favorite, and then Stonewheel. So I didn't want to have like a bunch like lined up here, but I'm gonna have to give this lower than Dust of Dreams because at least Dust of Dreams has an awesome ending. But Acel just kind of just peters out by the end of the book, and I just felt like I had a huge weight lifted off my shoulders when I finished this book, and I still feel that way. Where I'm kind of like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm never going to reread these books. Maybe I'll reread Knight of Knives because it's short, but maybe Crimson God at the most. But the rest of the 4 books I'm never reading again. I'll keep it in my collection because I do want like a full, complete Malazan collection in my book collection. So I do want to be complete with Malazan. I'm still going to read these extra books within the Malazan world, but boy, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's worth reading after book 2 of Novels in Malazan Empire, unless you're someone like me, who is a super fan of Malazan and the world, and you want to read about as many perspectives and characters as you want, as many cultures, and learning about many different perspectives. That's what I loved about Malazan, and that continues through all of these books, just to a much lesser degree, because the 2 different authors, they have 2 different skills and sets of talents, and also weaknesses. I mean, stuff that Steven Erikson does, I think Esamont sometimes does better. It really depends. I think I do like Ian Esamont's battles more than Steven Erikson. Steven Erikson's, I feel like it just kind of gets a little lost in the sauce of it, of sort of describing every single movement and stuff like that. Like, Esamont's fighting scenes, I feel like, is more like John Gwyn's fighting scenes. Was really exciting and bloody and fun, like all that. So, yeah, this is my rating. I'm happy I didn't go too heavy on one, level. I love the series. I'm going to continue on. I think I'll read this 4-book series next that I'm kind of hovering over with Dancer's Lament, Deadhouse Landing, Kellenved's Return. What does that say? I can't even read it. And Forge of the High Mage. These 4 books I want to read next, because that is a completed series from what I've heard. But this series here, The Witness, Forge of Darkness and Fall of Light, and God is Not Willing and No Life Forsaken, these are 2 ongoing... Yeah, Carcanus is this series. Forge of Darkness and Fall of Light, I think it says. And then God is Not Willing and No Life Forsaken is the Witness series, which is all focused around a particular character after the events of Malazan Book of the Fallen. So I'm really curious like how those series would tie up, because I'm very curious to know like what the legacy of the series will be as I grow older. Will it just be Malazan Book of the Fallen, or now that it's completed, will everyone say like you gotta read all of the books? Like, it really depends. I think if you absolutely love sort of the same kind of books that I do and have the same sort of ranking as I do and read for similar sort of reasons as I do, I think it's worth reading all of them, even if they don't hit for you. Because as you can see, 4 out of 6 of Ian Esamont's books are C tier and below. I did not put in an F because I want S to kind of be like super special, like really, really good, awesome, even 9.5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10, as I said earlier. But I think all these books, they really added to my enjoyment of the world. Reading these extra books, although they're not part of the main 10, like, it was still really great to kind of get a lot of the edges of the map filled out, and that if if you want to read Malazan for that reason, then you need to read these 6 books. Is my point. But I think that's all for for today. My voice is getting very dry and quiet. I'm losing my voice, is what I'm saying. But thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day. And let me know what you think of this ranking. What do you rank these books? What do you think of these books overall? Any comments? I want to talk Malazan as much as I can. So, again, thank you for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.